we wanted each of the houses in a particular society to have this digester that would help convert food waste into fertilizer as well as electricity, right? Um, and yeah, like it was a big project, required a lot of investment, but again, everything comes with a cost, and there is cost and benefit. It takes more time than you would take your traditional investments to actually recoup. But yeah, like it's something that you need to look upon as well. Like it's if you are into environment and saving your earth for future generations in general, yeah, that is something that you should start investing into.
You're now listening to Gradually Speaking. What if cutting emissions could also boost profits and unlock new deal opportunities? Today's guest breaks down the business side of M&A with real stories from live tech deals and high impact strategies. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Vansh Arora.
Hey, thank you.
So, hey man, how are you doing today?
Doing well, doing well. It's a Sunday and the sun is out, so can't complain.
So I'm so excited to get your story. So I
Hmm.
believe you went to University of Warwick, which
Yeah,
is
yeah,
one of the highest prestigious universities, not just in the UK, but the entire world. And
yeah,
you pursued economics there. So could
yeah.
you tell us why did you take this decision and a little bit about your experience?
Honestly, funny story. I was more of a PCMB student, so I was doing physics, chemistry, maths, and biotechnology back home, in India. Uh, After that, basically, I wanted to pursue biotechnology, but I had a few conversations with people that I knew and realized that it required studying for basically, well, till basically you're 35 and you have to work till PhD, and that's not what I wanted to do. So yeah, I started looking for I would say other engineering fields, wanted to do computer science, but then as every Indian wants to do, but no, I didn't want to pursue that. I saw everyone around me doing the same thing. I was like, okay, let's do something different. And that's what I basically stumbled on economics, started reading about it, um, started reading about Indian economy. It was boosting then. So yeah, it was something that actually pushed me towards economics, and then started looking at universities. Warwick was one of the best at that moment of time in UK. Uh, Applied to that. I was actually going to study in Delhi University itself in India. But then dropped those plans at the very last moment. I basically was a very like I basically got entrance into University of Warwick also like in July when the course was starting in September. So it was a very last moment situation, but hey, it worked out. So
There are so many moving parts to that, right?
yeah,
And even like going to a different country to which you have not been to, I believe,
yeah.
and basically starting a new life there. If, how did it look like for you academic wise? Like
Hmm.
how is the curriculum different? And basically, what did you do to stay involved in like the student clubs and stuff?
Got it. Okay. So yeah, I think academically I was always all right. Obviously, there was a very different way that like the way the curriculum was in the UK. Back home, India, you just study last minute and you're able to, push through the exams. You're still able to get 90s. That's something how India, the curriculum is. And at least it was when I was studying. So it's been a long time now. So, but like UK, how it was different was it was more focusing on practicals. There's always a real world case study that was linked to what you're studying, the theory part as well. So I think that's how it was different. You were able to use it in your projects as well. You could see how it actually use in real life. I think that's what the different part was. It you won't see questions and questions basically coming directly from the book, right? Like that's what you used to see in back home in India, but that's not what you see in UK. You study a certain theory, you study the application of it, but you might see a very different question. So you don't score 90s or 80s even or 70s even in the UK, right? So you tend to score between 50 to 70. And if you're lucky, 70s. Even if you get 60s, you should be happy at the end of the day. So yeah.
Yeah, that also says a lot about the difficulty of the program that you were in.
Yeah, econ in general was one of the most difficult ones over there. I would say
Hmm.
maths, econ, because the ranking of the universities is based on from the fact how difficult the curriculum is, but also how many people are scoring between that 70 to 80 range, right? So the less people are basically scoring between above 70, basically that's called first class in the UK. That is how also it defines that. That basically is a factor in basically contributing to the ranking of the university as well. So apart from that, obviously there's job data and all of those things that also plays into the ranking. But I would say in in general, it matters a lot where econ and math were one of the most prestigious courses in Warwick and the most difficult ones as well. So yeah. And obviously you see the talent as well, right? Like if it's number
Absolutely.
one in UK when I was there, it was number one. I don't know what it is now, but when it was attracting obviously the better talent out of basically from all over the world. So
Right. Yeah, and so your current role, you're working as an associate
yeah,
at a tech company.
yeah. You could say it's a tech company, but it's basically a publicly listed software investor.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, basically how the company functions is that it grows through M&A as well as obviously organically like a normal company does, but through M&A. So we tend to do, I think, so we tend to do close to 140 deals a year in
Wow.
M&A, and that's fairly a big number. So yeah, that's on obviously on a public company level, but as a group level, we do 40. Yeah, so I am focusing on a particular vertical over here. So yeah, that's how it goes. But yeah, M&A is the bread and butter of the company, basically.
Right. So investing in software, right? That's what the function of your company is.
Yeah,
Now, how has your past experience? So I believe you did a MBA as well. So
yeah.
how has that experience contributed to your role today?
Got it. Yeah, so I think it's multiple things that actually played a role. I would say it's long story short. I think obviously the education, uh, like starting in Warwick helped. Obviously, looking at macroeconomic factors, which play an important role in M&A still, um, and it always will. But also from the fact that I was basically working in my family business, which was basically in renewable energy, then working with KPMG in their risk consulting slash internal audit department. Did that for 3 years. So obviously that helps because you're basically going through the P&Ls, you're understanding what the company is all about. So you're able to decode the company way better when you're working in risk consulting or internal audit. You're doing multiple assignments. You're not working on one assignment alone. You're basically working probably 14 hours a day. So obviously that helps you to understand what the company is about, but also what the market is about. Um, wasn't exposed to a lot of tech before this, but I think tech investing in general is very similar to investing in a company, how you do in general in any space, but also um, from the fact that M&A deals over here are much quicker. It's much easier to understand the company. They are much easier companies to understand as well. Obviously, there are nuances to every company, but I think from the perspective that M&A all over, you're basically looking at certain things, right? You're looking at ROI, the investors getting the return. If you're not getting that return, there's no point of doing that deal. But that tech space is fairly have some nuances to it. I can talk detail about that, but then again, very different from other sectors, but again, very similar to other sectors as well. So there's no straightforward answer to this, I would say, but yeah, that's how it is.
Right. So, yes, absolutely. So, how do you invest in tech companies and maybe things that you should keep in mind while investing in these companies?
Got it. Okay. So I think I've learned my tech investing over here itself, where I'm working currently. So uh, there are few factors that you look at in a tech company, especially in a B2B SaaS company, I would say. You're obviously looking at attrition of the product. Attrition is generally calculated as something, how many customers are leaving you for a particular year, right? How much time they are spending with you. LTV, lifetime customer value in general, that is also something which is an important factor that we are looking at as well. Um, how quickly the company is growing, bookings. So that is another factor that plays into it. Uh, but also from the fact that how efficient the company is. Now, tech companies in general can be very efficient, or they could be spending a lot on factors that they shouldn't be spending on. So the whole point of M&A when we do it over here is we tend to buy them and make it more efficient. Obviously, because we've been doing like this company in general has been doing M&A for quite some time, right? So they know what works and what doesn't. So if it in general, that's what we do. But looking from the perspective of how to make the company more profitable, not only which the normal private equities might do in the world, that they might just cut a few people and then you can realize more profits. But that's not what we do. We are looking at other factors in terms of reducing other expenses and probably growing the company much faster than what is required. But yeah,
I see. So, your main goal after after buying a tech company is to make make goals come to life a lot quicker and in a more efficient way. Is that is
I would say, yeah, make the company basically more efficient, right? Like in the sense, now attrition of a product could be like a B2B SaaS product that you might be using, right? It 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 is possible that the attrition of the product is way higher the company is experiencing. So how basically we can bring that down? People obviously there are two sides of M&A. One is M&A operations, one is M&A deal advisory, what we do, basically the buy side M&A, that what we do, right? So we buy the company, but we also taking into factor what operations think about the company, how they can turn around the company. Can they actually reduce the attrition of the product? Can they actually increase the bookings by basically get new customers on board, right? Like how quickly can they do that? So all of those factors play into our financial model that we are developing as a M&A buy side advisor or a corp dev, and then basically we go about it. So it's not only a play of just putting some numbers on an Excel, but it's also how it can come to fruition from the operations perspective. So
how would that look from the operations perspectives? So it's more than just numbers, like you
yeah,
said.
yeah.
How would efficiency look like from a operations perspective?
Okay. So okay, yeah, I'll give you an example. So there are obviously benchmarks, right? So in terms of a B2B SaaS company, there's always like there are internal metrics that you should have. Each of these companies have that. Attrition is one of them. How much an ideal attrition should be for a company. How much your LTV should be, how much you should be spending on marketing, how much you should be spending on your sales resources, and blah blah blah, right? Like R&D is also another factor. So supposedly a company who is investing heavily into R&D might have a lower EBITDA, lower bottom line, but at the same time, they might realize those returns in the future years. So you want to incorporate that into the model, in the financial model, basically. So those kind of things, those obviously you can't be sure about what's happening in the financial model. If you can predict the future, then you're basically God, but you can't do that, right? So you can come as close to it. Um, but the whole point is that you talk to the M&A operators as well. You see how the companies you can turn around, and then you bake that into the financial model. So supposedly a company I might like you might be acquiring, we might be acquiring, or you might be acquiring in the future. They have a lot of R&D spend, and you don't believe the company that has that kind of a future in that field, the product that they are developing, right? So you might as well cut those R&D spends as well. So those are the things that you are looking at. Um, Another thing that some companies look at is in terms of cost is rent. Uh, I know a lot of people who can go remote from a company, so you might as well reduce your rent as well, right? So those are the factors that we pull on in terms of getting a return. But we need to make sure that is operationally viable. There are some operations in like from the perspective of a company that might be doing efficiently, like they might be more efficient in terms of working together on an on-site location, whereas remotely they might not be. So you have to keep that in mind as well. You can't just cut costs on an Excel and reduce numbers in an Excel and just realize your return. But at the end of the day, you should be able to make sure that those are viable cuts that you're doing.
You cannot be at multiple places at once, right?
Yeah.
So, how do you determine that the costs you cut are actually viable?
Yeah, so I think that plays a role when the operations people you're talking to, how experienced they are. It depends on their
Hmm.
experience, right? How much of this supposedly we are reducing rent, how much of reducing rent we have done in our past acquisitions and how successful they have been, right? Price increases. Supposedly a product is at $20 per user per month. We are planning to increase it to 25. That is basically, you could say, a 25% price increase, right? Now, how a customer that might take it, like every customer might behave differently. That product in general could be very core to its operations. So he might be like, hey, I'm ready to accept that 25% price increase, but some might not pay. So these are the factors that you would be looking at in terms of investing into a tech company. So obviously viability of each of the changes that you made are need to be vetted by operations, whether they make sense or not. And also from the past experiences, whether we have done that or not. If we are doing something very new to a company, that obviously requires more expertise, and that could also require us taking external help, consulting consultants as well coming on board to just make sure that what we are doing makes sense or not.
Right, right. Now, you have worked at so many different companies with so like such a versatile set of roles. So, how has that been? Like how has working in these multiple companies across the world shaped your worldview? And from even starting your own business, how has that kind of helped you become a better person for your role?
Uh, I think like honestly, I think every experience that I've had, I've learned something, right? So, even when I was 18 and I went to Warwick, that was something very different. Like I was basically a kid going to a new country. I haven't been putting myself in a situation uh where I haven't experienced what I have before, right? So if you're like it was something which was very different. Not from the perspective that everyone is facing, that everyone has to do their chores, house chores, and everything. But apart from that, like dealing with different people, that is something that you are able to do when you're coming across very different people from very different, uh, I would say, lifestyles, cultures. Um, so in general, UK was completely different. India was completely different. I was dealing with very different kind set of people over there as well. Starting from the companies, the big oil and gas companies, but also from the fact that I was dealing with people who are there in the supply chain of that company as well. Like people basically talking about the problems, right? Um, so yeah, none of the experiences where you're learning is comfortable, I would say. When you're learning when you're basically uncomfortable, right? Like that is where the things are. Even KPMG for that fact, like the first couple of months, I would say I was it was difficult to adapt, and I was basically traveling throughout. I was away from my family, so it gets difficult. But then, hey, I was learning a lot in the first year itself. I think I was able to learn so much, not only how to work on an Excel, but also from the fact that how a company operates, and that helped me basically find my own company, which was basically a spin-off from what I can say was from my family business. And then that was I won't take the whole credit for that, but yeah, so it was basically a spin-off, and then you could say post that when I came over here, uh, that propelled me to venture capital over here because of the entrepreneurship experience, understanding companies became easier for me. I won't say they're normal people, but that's like basically working in risk consulting, internal audit, um, finding your own company, it does help you understand how the companies operate in general. So worked here for some time, for around 6 months in venture capital before actually heading into M&A. And M&A is something I always wanted to do, just couldn't get myself to do it. But yeah, finally here.
Absolutely. And looking back at your experience at Warwick, so obviously one of the best educations a person can receive, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But if there's still one project or one course
hmm
that you could add to your portfolio while you were at Warwick, what would it be?
I know at that time, like honestly, economics, I was heading into towards data science in general. There are a lot of courses that were focusing towards data science. We I did my thesis also, which was obviously was involved basically a data science software itself. But I would probably would have wanted to explore more of that. If not M&A in general, I would have wanted to move towards quantitative finance, and those kind of courses are very good for quantitative finance. So looking at softwares like R, um, looking at softwares like Stata, Python, all of those things, and especially when it comes to using those for finance, um, I think you can go way beyond where uh, I am at the moment. So like in terms of M&A, right? So M&A is very focused towards one thing. Um, but quantitative finance, there is, I think, unlimited possibilities there. There's still a lot of that needs to be worked upon, I feel.
Now, I believe you started a startup in sustainability, and this startup came from experience in sustainability, right?
Yeah,
Now, you have helped companies reduce their fossil fuel footprint by 15%
yeah,
and even installed waste to energy plants.
yeah.
Can you just walk us through one project that made you think that, yes, I am doing something and I am making progress in sustainability?
So my family business in general was a waste to energy plant itself. So that is where I was first initially exposed to how you can convert waste to energy, right? So we were basically converting you could say different kind of waste into biogas, or you could say electricity at that moment of time. So we did this one project for a distillery where they were able to convert like the waste that they were producing from producing alcohol. It's called sludge in technical terms, but basically converting sludge into biogas and further into electricity, which was basically not only helping us treat the sludge because sludge basically is very harmful for the environment, where they were dumping it as well. We were able to convert that into biogas and further into electricity, which they were able to use that electricity in their plant as well. So it became more of a entire cycle, and the sludge that was treated sludge that could be used as manure or fertilizer for the plants around. So there was basically no uh, waste product that was left from it, and we were able to reduce their electricity bill by say around 10 to 15%, and not even that, but also we were able to realize more returns from selling the fertilizer as well. So I think those kind of projects are still out there. There are companies who are focusing on those. It's not it's not at the level that you would want to be. But yes, I think there's technology advancement that is being made, and I think there would be a point where net zero would actually be something that would come into fruition. So yeah,
Right. So you mentioned net zero. I mean, it's a big
yeah,
buzzword in today's market,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So firstly, could you explain just in short what net zero is? And secondly, what's one myth that more people in business should know and investment circles need to unlearn?
Uh, I would generally define net zero as something as where whatever waste is being produced, you can actually use that to your advantage, and basically not harm the environment in a way. Then that's a very simple definition, I would say, so that in general people can understand. But that is what net zero is for me. In terms of a myth and something people should unlearn is wherever you see this buzzword sustainability or net zero doesn't mean people are actually practicing it, right? So there's, and I won't name companies, but there are companies who are actually advertising their product as, hey, we are producing it in a net zero environment. We are using sustainable raw material, organic raw materials, and all of those things. But that doesn't mean the product is actually uh, sustainable or the company is sustainable in general. I think that is a buzzword that is being created. So I think if a person wants to really learn about whether the company is investing into sustainability, they should visit their website and just go through their sustainability reports. Like go into detail, just write down the points what they're doing, and you'll get to know what they're actually doing, or if they're just honestly, like, lack of better words, bullshitting their way out of this. Sustainability is something I know obviously it's a big cost to the company, uh, but it's something that especially if people are doing impact investing and sustainable investing, they should be very much aware whether the company is actually just using that sustainability as a buzzword like AI, but are they actually using it?
Yeah, absolutely. So without going into much detail and without naming any names, ha can you share an example where you have seen something like this happen?
Again, since can't name any product, it'll be trouble for me and you. Um,
Uh-huh.
uh, I do believe there are toothpastes out there,
Uh-huh.
and there are certain protein bars out there which tend to
Mhm.
use sustainability and organic material, just like organic raw materials that they're using. But sometimes consumers tend to um, oversee the actual details into it. So yeah,
Mhm.
just probably go through the consumer packet and just go through the company's website and see what they
Mhm.
are actually promising you. Are they actually delivering on that? So I that again can't say any names or anything. So yeah,
Right. And I feel like the health market is just so toxic overall because because most of them have the same scripts, right? Like they are selling the same stuff. Yes, it's organic, it has protein, it is good for you. But
um, and
when
it's
you
exactly the same thing everyone is using and it's working, right?
yeah,
Like that's the main problem. Um,
right.
but yeah, I think if you really are into sustainability and want to help the environment, I think there are better ways to do it.
Mm,
But yeah, if these companies can do it as well, I'm not saying they can't. It's just that, as we can see, the amount of layoffs that are happening for a reason, right? Like there's financial incentive involved there, and sustainability is a cost for these companies. So they have a motive of making a fool out of customers and investing less and less into sustainability, right? So
I just have one question about your experience in the energy sector.
yeah,
It so you started a consultancy in this sector, especially when you're pushing value creation in industries that aren't always ready for change, right? So, what made you go all in?
I think I think the value that I could see from my family business, one, because I think there's a lot you can do with waste to energy plants, right? Like there's a lot of different kind of waste that needs to be treated upon, and there's not only waste that are coming from poultry farms or anything else that we are looking at, but also your household waste. Those can that can be converted into electricity as well. It's just that people need to start investing into these kind of things, right? Um, the food waste that we produce at home. So at one point of time, we were basically treating food waste that was coming from um, the nearby towns to convert it into biogas and then electricity. And that electricity, we were basically selling that electricity back to the MNCs that were there, who were basically oil and gas companies that were there, and they were selling it back to the household. So if you can install those kind of smaller biogas, I would say reactors at home itself, by like digesters at home itself, I think you could probably go a long way. No, I won't say it would be a lot of electricity initially because you're not producing it as one household, you're not producing a lot of waste, but it can surely help go a long way in terms of net zero.
Right. Now that I think about it, is this such a brilliant idea, right?
Well, we started doing this. So there was this one project that we were looking at where we wanted each of the houses in a particular society to have this digester that would help convert food waste into fertilizer as well as electricity, right? Um, and yeah, like it was a big project, required a lot of investment, but again, everything comes with a cost, and there is cost and benefit. It takes more time than you would take your traditional investments to actually recoup. But yeah, like it's something that you need to look upon as well. Like it's if you are into environment and saving your earth for future generations in general, yeah, that is something that you should start investing into.
Absolutely. And I believe starting a consultancy in any sector is very difficult, right? And it's such a, to be honest, a bold move. So, uh, was there any point in your experience of the startup that you might think that this would just not work, or a
Oh,
pivot
every day,
that
every day.
changed everything? Yeah.
Yeah, every day, every day you're thinking that this is not going to work. This is going to work, right? Like so, that is um that is the life of a startup in general, like life of a founder in itself, right? So, uh, like initial from the starting stages itself, when you're actually getting the product in the market itself, like even for a consulting firm itself, yes, there are less investment required, but the same investment is required in your knowledge, as well as making that network in general, right? So, um, I think it's not a typical way to start a consultancy, but what helped me was obviously the network that I had with my family business. That obviously helped me, and that's why I never want to take a credit of like, hey, I started my own company from my scratch. That I didn't do that. Like I did a spin-off for my family business, and that basically helped. I think having that network in place and obviously the backing of my family, that obviously helps. So that is something that obviously that should, like, if you have that, is obviously a plus, I would say. um but I think that knowledge I was able to gather through working into the business for a few years, and then um basically have that risk appetite as well, right? Like you need to have that risk appetite to, to basically get into a new business line. I think that comes from my family in general. Like my family has been into business throughout their, I think all of their careers throughout. My dad, my brother, even my grandfather as well. So all of them has been into family businesses and different family businesses. So I think we have a way that we want to start our own business. And with me, I think I'm a bit unique that way, but that I won't say unique. That I'm actually pretty boring. That I'm doing a job according to them. So yeah, they are pushing me to start a business. Yeah,
Yeah, and you don't know what the future holds, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Like I'm always in hunt for new ideas, what is coming my way, and obviously, if I have knowledge of that idea, I would love to start something new. And yeah, like it's something that Uh, like I'm hoping that would come along my way as well. I'm working towards it. But yeah, there's always something new on the horizon for you. So
Absolutely. Now, I wanted to ask you more about your current role.
hmm
When you're looking at potential acquisitions or partnerships, how do you weigh short-term profitability against long-term strategic alignment? Because
hmm
looking into the future can be overwhelming, right? There are so many factors that you need to take into consideration.
yeah.
But especially in complex industries like tech or automotive.
Yeah, I would say like I think long term and short term are very two different things, right? Short term, like supposedly a company is losing 25% of their customers, right? And I acquire a company for for a particular amount, and I want the return in 4 years. I will just strip everything in the short term, which a lot of private equities might do as well. They focus on growth and stripping off the costs, right? Like that is what they're doing. So they want to grow quickly and they want to cut the cost so that they can basically increase their profitability and then sell the company again. That is short term. That is short term horizon that you're looking at. So a lot of companies do that. That is what private equities are for. Especially in our space, I would say. So yeah, like in the sense, obviously there are other methods to obviously go about it. I'm not saying that I'm an expert in this, and this is coming from the knowledge that I have from the few years that I've worked in this industry. Uh, but basically, short term is that, and then you basically quickly turn around the company and you sell it again. Like that's what a private equity does. But we are like the company that I'm working for, we are looking from the long-term perspective. So all the decisions that we are making are from how we can basically sustainably grow the company throughout the years. So we are not planning to sell the company anytime soon, and we don't sell any companies for that fact. So for that fact, all the decisions that are made are from the long-term perspective. Even if we are investing in R&D or we are investing into people, um, that is from the long-term perspective. The CEO that we are we are getting on board, or the CFO we are getting on board for the particular company is not for the short-term perspective that, hey, you can quickly turn around the company within 3 years and then, go to another company. We don't want that. We want the person to be growing the company, grow along with the company as well, and then probably move to a better role as well, right, within the company. So uh, that is how short-term and long-term differs, right? The decisions that you're making are um, not for the immediate profitability, but the profitability in the long term and the company basically stays in operations. That is what your perspective is.
So, would you say that long-term alignment leads to more profits in most cases?
Uh, I think eventually it does. Obviously, like there are exceptions. Not all the companies work in your favor. Not all decisions work in your favor. I like that is something that is there. But yeah, if you're thinking from the company from the long-term perspective, yes, I think
And
I would just add in general that short term in general doesn't help your employees or um, the product that you're selling as well. So
understood. And I believe Uber played the long game, right?
you can say that.
Yeah. And I believe they are profitable now.
Yes, I think they barely turned it around, but again,
Yeah.
um, I know there are new services coming into the picture as well. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I know back home in India there was a new service that came into the picture and
Mm-hmm.
took some short-term um, decisions, which obviously led to their bankruptcy as well. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
But again, I think again that's the difference between short term and long term, right? Uber has always been playing the bigger game where they're expanding to different geographies, they are expanding to different customer bases, and at one point of time that will pay off. So yeah, I think they're finally reaching that stage.
Right. So you have worked in both sides, right? At KPMG, looking at companies, improving processes, and now advising deals and strategies.
Yeah.
So, what's like your North Star when you're helping a company make a high stakes decision?
I think I think my North Star would probably look at how the company is structured in a way, how they're treating the employees, right? And this comes very much into how you invest in any company, right? Like the management team that is running the company, they could either make or break the company. So like, and you can see that in the numbers when you're looking at a P&L. Like any company, like it's very easy to go through the P&L and understand what's wrong with the company, but it's very difficult to fix when it comes to the management who is actually fixing it, right? So I think, and that's where the MBA or the CEOs of the companies come into the picture, where like you can change that. Uh, Obviously, nobody can change that for sure, short, but at least try to change that. And that is where I think my 2 cents lie on looking at the management. Um, you can see how the company will work in the future as well when you look at the management. If you're happy with the management, that is what you should be looking at.
Un- Understood. So, your current role involves of in a lot of inspection of businesses, right?
Yeah, you could
And
say yeah, due diligence of experience of businesses. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yes. So having started your own company and doing an MBA abroad, how did that shape your current way of thinking?
Um, I think it makes MBA easier for sure. Um, I would say MBA, you're looking at you're looking at a business from very different lenses. And when you're a business owner, you're already doing that, right? So MBA is obviously makes it easier to doing that. But I think I see I'm more of I like numbers. I'm more of a numbers guy. I like to see business from a numbers perspective. So if like and that is what MBA also helped me a bit to understand what could be wrong with the company, what those numbers actually mean. Initially, before doing an MBA or owning a business, I could like I was going through the numbers, but I couldn't see what can be done with the company. I think that has changed. And I think at the MBA and owning a business, that has helped me understand how we can probably improve the business, but also from the fact that where the business is actually going, where the business is, which direction it's actually taking. So that I think is something that has helped me.
Got it. Do you feel like your MBA education had any similarities to your previous degree?
There were similarities. Obviously, I think when you're looking at an MBA in general, he or she should have knowledge about economics in general, right? Like I think every business, like it's basically intertwined with how your macro and microeconomics are actually functioning in a particular geography, right? So I think that knowledge is important, and that is the similarities that I basically saw in that MBA. But MBA also involves looking at the marketing of a company, finances of the company, and all of those things. So economics is a bit different, where you're looking at a particular environment in silos and in terms of a micro and a macro environment. But from the MBA perspective, you're looking at a business. I think that like there are similarities, but I don't think so there'll be that lot of a person like similarities, honestly. So I think macro is looking at a particular economy, whereas MBA would be looking at a particular business. So they are intertwined. I'm not saying they're not intertwined, but there's certainly other factors as well that come into a picture when it comes to an MBA.
While pursuing both of these degrees, did you look at any of the same case studies ever, or it was totally different?
No,
No?
completely different. No, like because technically with economics, you're basically you're looking at decisions and what what basically relates to a particular decision, supposedly. So I did the thesis where I was looking at the effect of Chinese imports on certain economies in the world, right? So though that was a macro level paper that I was looking at, there are also micro level papers that people might be able to do, which is what basically impacts the happiness of a consumer in terms of buying a particular product, right? So you could be doing those kind of things. Those are more related to research, whereas an MBA, this MBA would probably help this research take a further step and make it into decisions for a company. That is what the difference is, I would say.
Understood. So I totally understand that everyone has their own story and their own circumstances. How did doing an MBA put you ahead of your competition?
Honestly, like an amount of people that are doing MBAs, it's competition that I think what sets you apart is your
Mm-hmm.
experience in general. Because everyone is doing the same thing, right? I think your
Right.
experience, your capability of networking with people, how outgoing you
Mm-hmm.
are, um, I think that sets you apart. I think these two things in general is something that sets you apart from other people when it comes to an MBA. That is what you how you can differentiate yourself. That skill sets can be developed, but other things like networking, having a past experience in general, that needs to be developed over time. I think that is what the difference is, and that's how you should probably differentiate yourself in the environment that you are in at the moment as well. Like job market in general, how you want to differentiate yourself. Um, that varies from your experience and how you're able to network as well, right? It's the same thing with MBA as well, I feel.
Understood. Soft skills are very important. And
Yes.
and would you say a person with the most technical knowledge, like amazing technical knowledge, and no soft skills would get ahead than a person with a mix of both?
Yeah, I think I think how especially how Canada works, right? I think you're much better off having the balance of both rather than just more of one. So I like even only with technical skills, I don't think so. You can probably um get ahead of everyone in your competition. I think it's a mix of both that you would require. And especially like soft skills, the more you have, the better.
Could you give some advice on how to develop on the soft skills as like a economics student?
I think it's not particular to a field, I would say. It's more comes from a personality perspective where uh,
Mm-hmm.
you would want to get yourself out there and basically talk to as many people as you can, right? Like people have very different experiences, and I know you kind of all have already realized. I think you have talked to so many different people, have different experiences, right? So I think just talking to those people helps. They tell you a different story every time you have a conversation with them. So I think it's not related to economics in general in silos, but from a personality perspective, I think developing on soft skills is just getting yourself out there, like talking to as many people as you can, getting to those networking events, but also from the perspective that, hey, you're not always there to just work on your professional self, but also on your personal self. You're coming to a new country, you're coming to meet people who are have very different cultures and very different values. So it's good that you would probably just understand their perspective and give your 2 cents as well. But that is what like you are here for, right? Like to understand the new culture that is there over here. So yeah.
And if you could give your younger self a piece of advice before entering the world of consulting, audits, and strategic deals, what would it be?
Honestly, get as much sleep as you can before. But no, I think from the perspective of my younger self, I think it's for me, and that's what I like two things that I always tell people who are probably in my position when they're like, graduating in general. try to grow yourself as horizontal as possible, not vertically or horizontally, because you want to learn different functions in and how you operate a business, or in general, understanding different functions in a business. So finance, marketing, sales, you should know everything about a business in general. And then probably going vertically when you know what you want to do. That is something that I tell a lot of people, because I think obviously like everyone starts specializing when they are what 18, 19. Hey, I want to do this, I want to do this. At that point, you just don't know what you're doing, right? Like in the sense when you're 18, you don't know what your career is going to be. So I would say experience every different thing as much as you can, and then once you know what you like, then probably work towards it. So for me, I think I would advise everyone that.
Understood. So I believe the major concern that most people have with that is they either spend too much time developing vertically on one skill, and when they get a glance of something that they actually like,
Yeah.
they think that it's too late to pursue that path. So,
Hmm.
what would be some advice you would give to those people?
I think slow down. Honestly, no, time is going to be there. Like in the sense, hey, I know everyone says time is running out and all of those things, but when it comes to a career, I think like it's a pyramid, right? Like you have to reach the top of the pyramid, and your base needs to be stronger. So, if your base is weak and you're basically not able to build through that, then that's no point building on that. So I would say that, and that's why I said you want to grow horizontally, because you want to know different functions. And I'm not saying that you need to work in every function. You just need to know about them, how they function, right? And that's why having conversations with people is important, because you're able to realize what they're doing and how different it is from what you are doing. Um, there obviously be similarities, and how you can relate to them. But having that stronger base and then building on it, that is easier than building from a weaker base and only focusing towards a particular industry, I would say. So because in the end, like as you grow into your career, you'll probably be looking at a C-suite role. And when you're looking at a C-suite role, it not only involves expertise in your particular function, but also looking at the particular P&L that you'll be handling. So finances is important. Sales is important. If you're supposedly working in marketing, you need to know how much sales they're going to be bringing in. What's your ROI? For that, you need someone from a finance function as well. So yeah, it's just a mix of everything, right? So if you want to climb up that ladder, it's important to have uh, that base being strong, basically.
This only comes with experience, right? Like if you don't try new
Obviously, yeah,
things, then you never know what you'll like. Yeah, absolutely.
exactly. Yeah, getting uncomfortable is the way how you grow. So yeah,
Understood.
that is how it is. Like if you're comfortable within your cushy job, then that's a problem.
Mm, right. Now, to kind of encapsulate your experiences, I'm just gonna help you summarize everything with this one question.
Hmm.
So, for students exploring careers in strategy and M&A or energy,
Yeah,
what's one thing you wish more people told you early on?
I think, and I think that comes with time. I think M&A and strategy roles, obviously, when you start early on in your career, you can start with investment banking, and there are so many different ways you can start M&A, right? Um, but it's always important to learn how business functions. Like looking from a perspective of, and this may sound very MBA-ish, but it is how you should actually look at the world as well. When you're looking at certain datas, you're looking at a company in a very siloed way. You should look from a way which is high level. Once you get all the data in one place, keep it in different places and have a look at different pieces together. That is an important thing, I feel. Um, I think when I was starting my career and in general, I just wanted to do whatever I could, like whatever I was getting, which also kind of worked in my favor. But sometimes it doesn't work with everyone, right? So I think strategy, M&A, I think it's specifically strategy and M&A, it's important to make those decisions and whether those decisions are right or not. So I think looking at a perspective or a business from a high level view, and not only like just going deep into data or the numbers in general, that is also something that you should learn early on. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so much to think about.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
like it's honestly like I think I don't know. I feel for me numbers like I am numbers help me understand businesses and everything in the
Mm,
world at the moment. Um so yeah, it like once and they're different people, right? Some people don't understand numbers at all. So and some people value relationships with other people more and how they develop their business. It
mm-hmm.
completely depends on what kind of person you are, I feel. So I
Uh,
think it depends
and
on that.
and good companies only excel when these kind of people collaborate with each other, right?
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah. And that's why it's important to have the balance, right? Like that's what
mm-hmm,
everyone keeps on teaching us, diversity, diversity, diversity. It's not
mm-hmm,
only diversity in terms of how you look, but also from the perspective how your experiences are, what kind of person you are in general. So I think that is what is more important, I feel.
right. So now my final question is something related to what we discussed. Um, what is the best piece of advice you have ever heard or received?
Uh, I think this is what my my dad always tells me. He's like, so one thing that I always look at is everyone has their own time. Um, so you do see people around you growing and basically doing better than you or maybe doing less than you. Doesn't mean that you won't get that time. So you will have that time. It's just that everyone has a different time period when you get that time. So could be that I am reaching that peak at 25. You might be reaching that peak at 30. So everyone gets it. It just you just need to be patient. So yeah, I'm working towards that.
Wow. That's an excellent thought to end this episode on. And this conversation was absolutely phenomenal. Your insight is so valuable, not just to my audience, but to me as well. Um, yeah, and I cannot wait to see the amazing things you'll accomplish, especially n-
Uh,
if you will go
Thank
into
you.
starting if you'll go into starting your own business again. I just wish you the absolute best.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And wishing you all the best as well, man.
All right.